Right, welcome back everyone. So now we're going to talk about behavioral therapy. Behavior therapy, behavior theory. Um, there's a whole lot of different ways that this is described, but we'll push forward here. So, behaviorism and behavior therapy. Behaviorism is arriving on the scene after a several theories ahead of it that were largely unscientific, were largely unable to be thoroughly, rigorously tested, and so this is behavioral comes to the landscape here, bringing the scientific model um, to human change. And so it's a new and different view, but it's also more mechanistic, and so it's less to do with feeling, less to do with I don't know reasons why people are doing something, and much more to do with behavior. The piece of behavioral that I absolutely love and that I find a lot of hope in is that a behavior was learned, therefore it can be unlearned, and that is the piece that behavioral is really about. So it acknowledges that feelings and thoughts exist, but they don't cause action. It's instead focusing on factors in the environment that can be manipulated. What can be changed? What can be turned up, turned down to eliminate the behavior? So, like squirting a cat with a water bottle when they are not using the litter box. It's that kind of thing. So it arose as a reaction to these unscientific approaches that we've talked about, but it really made an effort to describe, explain, predict, and control behavior. Those last two pieces, predict and control. It was once learned, therefore it can be unlearned. The bottom point here. So behavioral therapy really has four different components. Now, we will look at and take cognitive behavior therapy all on its own. So that's what we'll be tackling. We'll tackle that as a standalone. And cognitive behavioral therapy is the most major contribution to the counseling and psychology fields in recent years, and so it is that is a powerhouse theory all in of its own. But these top three really are behavioral theories, contributions and additions. So we'll talk about each one of these as we go. All right, so many of you in your undergrad probably came across this classical conditioning, Ivan Pavlov and his dogs, Pavlov's dogs. Well, boy, here is just on a side note, look at this very warm and engaging man. He's got such an open posture and a nice warm smile, and yeah, it looks a little rough. So his was respondent learning or associational learning. Really, what that's all to say is the Pavlov's dog. So for those that may not remember or have not heard of this before, he did a lot of experiments on dogs. So basically, he would put food in front of a dog. The dog would begin to salivate or drool, and so we had a behavior happening. We had a pairing. So food created drooling. Well, then he moved it to a bell. So he would ring a bell, give the food, dog would drool. So ring the bell, dog would give the food, dog would drool. Well, then the next step in it is that he would ring the bell and the dog would begin to drool. So the dog was expecting there to be food, but no food was produced. So what he found is that if he continued to do that, ring the bell, not produce food, then the dog's salivating would eventually stop. And so what he was able to show in these experiments of his were that you can control behavior, stimulus and response. Response, stimulus being the bell, response being the drooling. Next phase is we've got B.F. Skinner. Now, B.F. Skinner was, he's in the mental health world, but he was far and away a lab guy. He absolutely spent the majority of his time in a lab, not talking to people, hanging out with his rats. There is, for those that are Muppet fans, there's a really great scene where Rizzo the rat gets put into a lab with a scientist, and the lab, the rats are in there getting shocked and things like that. If you've not seen the Muppet movie with that, I can't remember which one that is. Maybe somebody can email that to me and I'll put it out to everybody. But anyway, he was strongly a lab guy. He's the father of the behavioral approach, link between observable environmental factors and behavior. Thorndike's law of effects. These things are far less important, but basically he extended the work in the lab to what we can do to help modify human behavior. So if it works with the rats, applying that to human behavior.